You came to Connecticut when?
2023.
2023. So you've been here for
Close to 3 years.
close to 3 years. So are you on your way out? Like because yesterday you said something really interesting to me that I didn't even think about when I met you guys a week or so ago, where you like have to kind of reposition yourself in real estate every 3 years, being a military spouse. And I never thought about that. And you said it in a way, or you've basically made your stamp here in Connecticut by producing a significant amount of volume and making over 6 figures. And I want to dive into that a little bit. So let's tap into your background first, Olivia, because you're from England?
Yes.
Okay, from England. When did you move to the United States?
2017.
Oh, so you're like only less than a decade.
Less than a decade.
Okay.
I would say 8 years in August.
Wow. And your husband is in the Navy?
Marines.
In the Marines.
Yeah.
Where'd you meet him?
So he was stationed at Miramar in San Diego, and my dad immigrated there 15 years ago.
Okay.
So I went to visit him. I got fired from my job and when I was like 19, and took like a 3-month stint to just go out in San Diego and rage.
All right. And then you met him there?
Yes.
And he's probably on orders there?
Yes, he was stationed there. Yeah, he's originally from Indiana, and he was stationed in San Diego from the start.
Okay. And what did you do before? Because I think, what was your life like in England?
I did real estate.
Okay.
So real estate's different in the UK. I dabbled actually, but the job I was fired from was in real estate. But in England, you hire the company and everybody in the office. There's no singular brokers. There's no license. There's nothing like that. Everything goes through what they call solicitors, so an attorney. And so people in the office just did like showings and whatever else. The money is not as good. You're on a salary, things like that. Don't ask me what I did to get fired. I cannot remember. I don't know.
You said you got fired when you were 19 years old?
Yeah. I guess.
I got to know the tea. What you can't remember? I don't know. I'm calling BS on that.
I know.
I'm calling BS on that.
No, I can't. I really can't. Like, I can't remember. I was an idiot when I was 19.
Yeah, who wasn't? Right.
Right.
So, but let's just talk about the practical things of real estate. And I think if I were to think of insurance in a different country, I think fundamentally to obtain the clientele is probably similar, right?
I imagine, yeah.
Head hunting and trying to figure out how you position yourself to become a standout rep or insurance agent, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Real estate agent. What was that like for you then, right? For you, that young, 19 years old in real estate? That's kind of young.
Maybe I think I started when I was 17.
You started that young?
Because you don't need a license or anything there. You just work in the office. So 17. And then prior to that, like my family have always dabbled in real estate anyway. But as soon as so in the UK, you can leave school at 16. And at 16, you can go to college or you can just go into the workforce.
Oh, okay. I sat with, do you know who Brandon Giddickson is? He's I've recently in the group that we're in on Facebook, the Groton area one. I just posted his episode with me.
Okay.
And he said very similar. Like once you get to either your sophomore or junior year in Sweden, he can decide to do like a trade or something like that.
Yes,
very similar.
Super similar.
Okay.
So at 16, you can go to a trade college. You can go continue on with your what they call A levels, or you can just join the workforce.
Wow.
So technically, I mean, if you wanted to start a business at 16, you probably could. I went to college for 2 years. I did veterinary nursing.
Wow.
I know. And then went and worked in real estate when I was at the end of, so like 18, 17,
it's interesting. I love hearing like stories of salespeople who have, and I feel like this is probably 90% of salespeople. Me being in insurance, I have a criminal justice degree. I wanted to be a cop.
You're like, why did I do this?
Right. But there, and just sitting in with Tara, her journey of what, obviously she was in sales and she did a bunch of different things, and here she is. She lands in real estate in that people business. With you at 17 having to figure out like this is something that you think you could do forever, kind of thinking like that? Or did you say, I'm just doing this to, kind of make a living, and I'm young, we'll figure out what happens in the next decade?
I was always, I'm probably still, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants.
What do you mean?
Like I don't know. I don't think I go into many things like I have a serious plan about X, Y, Z. It was always, I don't know.
But you have a goal, right?
Yeah, but I feel like they change often. Do I have like a goal for my life at the end? Yeah, sure. But when I was 17, I wasn't thinking that I was going to immigrate to America, marry a Marine, and move every 3 years. So I knew I was good at real estate. Even when I was young, 18, 19, I've just been good with people. So like I can relate to even people who were older and I was 19. It was very like, oh, we love her. And yeah.
And that's been able to translate
kind
into
of
the business here. So, so 2017, you come here. Where'd you live first?
Straight to North Carolina.
Straight to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then.
Well, so I lived in San Diego for a little while and then he got orders to North Carolina. We stopped in Georgia on the way. Yeah.
And you go get your license and all that stuff here?
So no, I get my license in North Carolina. So when
I mean, sorry, in the United States, I meant like,
Yeah. So each state, obviously you have a different license, but I actually was a supervisor of Victoria's Secret for maybe 3 years, but it took 2 years to get my work permit because I'm not a citizen, I'm on a green card. Right. So it took a while to get my work permit. Then I worked at Victoria's Secret. And then when we purchased our first home, our realtor, who I still love, like she really inspired me and I was kind of like, if she can do it, I can do it. So I got my, no offense, but I love her. I was just like, but she's, okay, actually I'm like, at one point, we went to go look at homes and she pulled up in a blacked out, gorgeous Porsche, Christian Louboutins on. And I'm not like a materialistic queen, but like I was like,
yo,
she's so sick. Yeah, like this lady is so cool. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. And when I say like it cost every single dollar in our bank account, like he was an E5 at this point, not earning very much. I had just had a baby. We couldn't even afford diapers.
Wow.
Like we were broke.
Wow.
Living paycheck to paycheck. Like, I don't know. We just bought our first house. So I was like, I'm going to try and do this. I'm just going to do this. And so I got my license there while she was still like a baby. And yeah, I just took off from there.
So are you dually licensed in multiple states?
Yes.
Yeah. Which states are you licensed in?
North Carolina, it's not active anymore. Virginia, it's not active anymore. And then Connecticut.
Okay. So it's a very interesting thing because like I mentioned to you yesterday in our conversation over the phone that I know a lot of military spouses who are realtors in this. And I never thought about the impact that would basically the impact of moving for every 3 years to their business. You took a leap, you jumped in, no money, can't pay for diapers. And you said something earlier today, like I make $100,000 in 6 months or whatever the number is. How are you able to do that with such volatility and no rigidness in where you are? I think that's very difficult. It's difficult to do in business in general, not to mention real estate, the market, because people don't follow you. Like, how obviously probably, I don't know, like what your relationship building process is like externally. Like I'm part of eCar and I, as an affiliate member, I'm able to, network with you, Tara, Keith Turner, whomever is in the field. And then the business comes to me that way. But for you who are, you're going to be in a different place in probably a year or so from now, most likely. What's that rebuild process like? Like that seems so hard.
Yeah, and it's not just hard like business-wise or financially, whatever. Emotionally, it's difficult because you are planted in a new spot. So when we got here, I mean, I had never been north of North Carolina. I had never been to Connecticut. What did I know? I was like, okay, there's New York, there's Boston. Does it snow? Like, I had never met a single person. Yeah. And I was like, it's okay. Me being the optimist, I remember I had a personality test done once and there's one category for like optimism and it was like blind optimism. Like you don't just like it might go my way. It's going my way, And sometimes I'm like, wait, should I do that? That's weird.
Right.
But I knew I could do it. I knew that my personality is very strong. And I knew that it would work out that way for me. Building a business every 3 years as you go along, I mean, it's character building. I'm not going to act like I have not been on the floor crying.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard. But just getting out there is, I mean, everybody knew who I was within 6 months.
I saw you pop up on like friends you might know multiple times. I'm like, I don't know this girl. I've like never seen her before, but now I do. And again, thank you for. But I mean that like because you know I wouldn't have never known. Now it makes sense why I haven't run into you at any event or anything like that in the last. You know, I've been in the insurance industry here in Connecticut for 10 years.
Right.
So it would make sense now. You know, understanding that you're a military spouse and you get going. You know, here we are and.
Right. And it ruffles feathers, I'll be honest. Like, you just pop up out of nowhere. Like, who is this?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, you can have like different reactions to it. You're kind of like, oh, I wonder how I've never. And then you start thinking about it, like, how have I never met this person? And without knowing, you kind of go, And that sometimes can, you know, one of the biggest challenges I have found doing this and doing it a few times or having to rebuild a business in a new state is kind of other people. Because it is this whole, like, you know, you step back and you think, who is this?
Yeah.
Like, well, who does she think she is? Where are you coming from? But what they don't realize is, don't worry about it. In 2 years, I'll most likely be gone.
Right.
So don't stress.
Yeah. When, like, what, can you walk me through, like, just practically? So, because, you know, 17, 20, 23, here we go, 26, right? Coming up here. So, we'll call it 4 cycles of real estate, being an agent here. Yeah. Can you just kind of walk me through what you at least build out to say, all right, I'm going to do this to make $100,000 in 6 months or X, whatever that number is. You know, you can share, you don't have to share. What it is that you set out to do? Is it, I'm going to make I'm going to pound the phones. I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to, you know, shake hands and kiss babies kind of thing. You know, what's that look like for you?
I feel like this sounds cringy. I am not going to cold call anybody because of how I always feel like it should be as organic as possible, right? Because I don't want to, it's not that cold calling doesn't work. It does. I'm not saying that. For me, it does not. If I cold call you, there is a problem because I'm cold calling you and I'm going to be as awkward on the phone as you are, like, who is this? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, that's not how I work. How I operate is I get to know people. I go out, like, I sponsored my rec department. You know, and it's easier with a child. Obviously, that's not an option for everybody, but sure. I got her involved in clubs. I speak to people. I market myself heavily. I don't buy leads because I don't feel like it's worth it for me. I don't cold call. I don't door knock. Because that's awkward for me. Yeah. And I'm never going to be successful generating business from something that I don't enjoy. Right. It's like an energy exchange. So that's not me. I really do get involved and I want to be involved in everything anyway. That's who I am anyway. Yeah. I'm very outgoing. I want to be around people. Worst case scenario, like, is me working in an office all day. I would hate that. Right. So I'm always out doing things. I try to be as likable as possible, I guess. Not in like a weird way, but my vibe attracts my tribe. I try and plant myself in similar minded people. And they usually, I don't hate to say it, I'm really good at my job. Yeah. And so when people notice that and they work with you and then they hear it and it's very organic. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that humans are quite impressionable. I am too. If everybody, remember when like Stanley Cups blew up and everybody bought a Stanley Cup? If you hear that Stanley Cups are the best, then everybody wants to be involved with the Stanley Cup. Right. So like, I love it when my clients, you know, give me reviews or speak to their friends about me or recommend me. And now at this point in Connecticut, I just get messages that are like, my friend said you were amazing to work with. Like, could you help me? I have a good reputation. I try my absolute best to withhold that reputation. Obviously, I'm not a saint, but like, I try my best to keep a very good reputation in the business. And that's not just with clients. That's also with other brokers. Like, I would like to think I'm a very good co-broke. Just keep the peace. But I like to attract people like that naturally. Sure.
Most people in sales are and I mean this really respectfully, I'm going to say this from my perspective of how I view myself a little bit. I think that in sales, you can think that once you get a groove on things, you don't need to do anything different. You don't need to change. You don't need to reinvent, if you will. And again, I'll just use that for myself. That being said, I've learned very quickly that's not the case. And I should say quickly, but I've only learned over the last year or two that you got to continuously try new things and do things a little bit differently. Because markets change, you got to move this direction. In 2020, I was heavily involved in car dealerships. 2022 rolls around and they're like, oh, well, we can't really deal with cars anymore because the market is kind of out of whack. Then we got to pivot and, diversify, if you will. And that was very hard because when you're so set on one behavior to transition into a different behavior, it's kind of like, what the heck? How am I going to do this? I'm going to post something on Facebook like I used to, 5 years ago when the algorithms were like, hey, next in line, you saw this. Paul posted this at 2:00. You're going to see that. It doesn't work that way anymore, right?
Yeah.
What do you have to do to remind yourself that there's this kind of constant evolution, even with AI and buyers and sellers and the market being what it is? How do you pivot for Olivia to make sure that you're, not just spending all day crying on the floor like you were saying earlier?
Oh my God, don't bring that up again. Oh, stop it. That's such a good question because I find myself kind of sticking with my old routine too. And sometimes I get in the mindset of, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to scale up because I know I'm going to leave at some point or whatever else. But I have something up on my corkboard at home, in my office that says, what can you do differently? And it's funny because I feel like if you asked other people that have been following me for a while, like on Facebook or whatever else, they'd be like, she's always doing something different, marketing wise.
Sure.
I try to surround myself with big dogs and I watch what they're doing. And I don't need to I'm not saying copying or anything like that. I'm saying I can just watch. And I feel like that keeps me up to speed. I feel like my personality in some respect is very different anyway. I feel like I don't know. I'm still at an age where I can kind of keep up with the AI and the Facebook and the social medias. So do I often think okay, what can I do differently that's going to generate a bunch of business? Not really. I kind of just go with the flow a little bit. I don't know. I've had to hire a VA who's better at algorithms and social media, when to post and all the different technology because you
don't have the time to do it. Well,
first of all, I don't have the time to do it. Secondly, I am I'm not sat there studying. And I think these days with the TikTok and the Instagram, you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so hiring a social media expert for me I had to do it because I can't sit there and know when the algorithm's going to, I mean, Lord knows
Does that work? So the social media stuff, having the VA, does that work for you in your business?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Because I feel now I post on my personal Facebook page almost like it's a blog, and I hope that I feel people get to know me through that on a personal level. Of course, there's bits of real estate in there that I share, but for the most part, I mean, you're on my Facebook. It's very personal. It's ridiculous things that I'm doing in my day, and I hope that brings in the right people too.
That's a great strategy, though.
Right, because I remember looking for a realtor and being like, oh, look, a pantsuit. I don't want that. I want the crazy redheaded chick with a corgi. I just want somebody relatable. I want you to come into my social media and feel like you know who I am.
Right.
At the core. So that's something that's always worked for me. That's kind of part of the whole organic thing, is that I want you to feel like you know me. Sure. And a lot of my clients will be like, well, what about, can we call you? If I'm like, call me like you're my friend. Yeah. Working with me is like working with a friend at 99% of the time, unless they're terrible. And then I'm like, please leave me alone. But I mean, yeah, I feel like I forgot the question.
No, it's just
The social media.
Yes.
So she runs my Instagram, and I have like 10,000 followers on there.
Wow.
I know.
Hopefully she collabs with me on this show.
She can. I'll tell her to. She's great. And she runs my business Facebook page and TikTok, and she's very good at doing that. I mean, there are like 3 or 4 posts a day, which is honestly what you need to keep that up.
Right.
I could not do that without her.
Yeah.
And it's important.
Good for you. I mean, and that's, I think, the biggest thing with as a salesperson is delegating is probably one of the hardest things I've ever
I hate
to
it.
this day.
I hate it.
I have to have control of
Same.
every aspect of the process from beginning to end. You know, when I get a referral and somebody just wants to get the quote and not the numbers and the why, we were just talking about like some very basic principles of insurance, right? Just a few minutes ago. I like to go through that process from beginning to end so my client knows. But if that part gets cut out because somebody just wants a number, I get a little like anxiety about it, because I just need the control of letting my people know that here's from beginning to end, I'm going to walk you through that process. But delegating is actually a good thing, and being able to let go of this framework that you need to handle it all, because you can't commit to 100% to every aspect of your business, because you're taking away from another one. You know, there's this saying, you need to work on the business and then in the business, and you can't do both at the same time. You need to be able to delegate. And that's, I think, some of the hardest things that in general salespeople have to go through. What was the hardest thing for you coming into this industry and kind of getting the ground going outside of the, hey, you know, can't pay for diapers and, you know, all of that stuff? But like, you know, think about your, you know, first few clients, and when you were going through, you know, closing, like how fast was that? Was that like this, you know, I hear stories all the time of realtors who jump into the industry, you know, and it takes them 12 months to get their first deal, or, you know, what's that like for you? Like, what's that process that you go through to make sure that, I can't let this happen. I can't wait 6 months to close a deal.
I was broke, and something about me, like, I am a Capricorn. I will not be broke for long.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, I can't. I had 3 deals in my first month.
Wow.
I knew my neighbor had told my other neighbor that they were moving, and I crossed the street, like our houses faced each other, and I crossed the street. I was like, "Are you moving?" And she's like, yeah, it's going to go on the market. I was like, "Oh man, I'm a realtor. I can help you." She's like, "Oh really?" And I was like, "Yeah, just let me do it." She goes, "Okay, I'll tell my other realtor we're going to cancel." She did. I put it on the market. That was, I swear to you, I like won't mention addresses or names, but I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. But that's a little bit of a learning lesson though for you, that you're like, I just did this, like without any network, if you will, right? But I just did this, and it was a little bit uncomfortable, probably. Like, I don't know how many conversations you had with yourself previously on whether or not you should do that or not. But
a little audacity can go a long way. Like a little bit of obnoxiousness. I'd never spoken to them before. I maybe like a hi neighbor thing. Not really though. There's a lot that can come from you not having much of a choice. I just spent maybe the best part of $5,000 getting my license, and 1 deal covers that.
Right.
So I knew, and I had somebody else input the listing for me. I had no idea. And then before I knew it, it was just a rolling ball after that.
What was Olivia like as a kid? I'm curious, because this is very, I think you have a very dynamic personality. And
see, as an adult, they call it dynamic. As a child, they call it, you're a little shit.
Well, little shits turn into dynamic people. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
And you know, but you have this dynamic personality. Even since I walked in and met with Tara, and now you just. There's certain people who, when I walk into a room when I don't know them, and they're just very, like, if there's another person that I'm engaging with, and very, let's just use this scenario between me and Tara, the other person will be closed off towards me, if that makes sense. You weren't like that at all. It was almost like you knew me, but you didn't know me. And That's what I mean with dynamic, and I think that makes sense to what you were saying earlier when you were in England, that you're a people person. You just like people. Like you don't look at people, in my opinion, from what I'm this 20 minutes we've been talking, it doesn't appear that you have a bias or a consensus on somebody until you get to sit down and talk to them. And really, even still, you probably use your own way of being to just diffuse what the other person in the room is, kind of like, this is who I am, like whatever, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But it's dynamic and courageous to go over to your neighbor and be like, hey, hello, I'm a realtor, can I sell your house? Like, that's very courageous. Not a lot of people have that. And that probably is why like you are as successful. That is the reason why you're as successful.
And I think sometimes, people will spend, and it makes me sad sometimes, because what do they say? Like 80% of realtors don't really close any deals. Mm-hmm. It's the 1% closing the 1%. Yep. And so it's difficult because you can sign up for as many coaching programs and you can sign up for as many like moms in real estate and this and dynamic real estate, which I'm not saying like you have to be, what's the word? Like loud and brash to be successful in you don't, but there is a characteristic and it draws people in, and that is sales, I guess. Yeah. You have to be forward with people and like,
100%
outgoing, I would say. That's not the case. I know so many quiet people that are successful, but their routes on getting there were different to mine. Mm-hmm. When I say like I do like organic sales, it's because I hope that people are just drawn towards me as a person and we'll all get along together,
Right. I feel like a lot of people in sales, and again, I hate to say a lot of people because I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but I've been in sales for 10 years and I know a lot of good relationship people who do well with relationships. But I think there's external validations that people seek when it comes to who they are as a agent, insurance agent, real estate agent, broker, whatever the case might be. And the second you start seeking the validation is when you diminish your value of who you actually are. And you mentioned, the moms in real estate groups, and I'm sure there's dad insurance groups and whatever it is. It's like, those groups are great, right? Because I can relate to you, but there's almost this external seeking of, hey, there's this running joke that I see, that I think about all the time when people in my office, we have a Teams group, and they'll be like, hey, is the internet out? And they're waiting for somebody else to be like, yeah, so now they can just step away and not do any work, right? Instead of maybe doing something different, and as opposed to, I don't have to be at the computer. Let me see if I can reach out to somebody and grab some coffee or something like that, to kind of build that relationship. And the second that you start to seek these external validations to feel good in your role is where you kind of go wrong. And it doesn't seem like you don't give a shit about what anybody thinks, and that's okay. I
love that is the consensus, because I don't.
Yeah.
I solidly do not. Yeah. Like I have got people that get their, let's say I have ruffled their feathers, not purposely. I won't engage. I won't involve. Yeah. I don't care. You can't, I don't think you can. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can care. Do you like my videos and things like that? Of course, I know they're a little goofy. Yeah. They're a little stupid. Yeah. Sure.
That's the biggest thing, is not caring. I've grown, and I will say, I'll be very honest. So quick, just not to go too much on me, but Comparing Insurance Agency is basically the company I've been with for a decade. I started in a week, the 15th of April, 2015, I got hired by Liberty Mutual. And in 2022, they changed to Comparing Insurance Agency. Really, really rocky transition in headspace and confidence wise. I just was like, man, I don't know if this is for me. I quit and went to a different agency. And that kind of forced me to like be more direct with people. Yeah. And kind of not give a shit about like who cares if somebody says no about this? Who cares if, you go reach out to a realtor, like, I'm all set, like, you already don't have it. And, that's where the podcast came into and came to life. And, I reached out to my manager. I said, hey, I'm not having a good time here. Like, I have really good things lined up in terms of, infrastructure, but I miss the people. I miss, the people who I've been with for the last decade and who were part of my life were at my wedding, and the value on that. But it was almost just like a necessary thing to do, because going back to what I was saying earlier, we can get really stuck in our ways. But I was like, I'm going to start a podcast and see what happens. And it is very much created that kind of same element of, I don't care, that if somebody listens to this and they're like, oh, that's boring, or, there's no value. It's just like, I'm just doing, but in turn, it's helped my business.
Well, it's life outside of the cringe is what I call it. I saw this picture, I guess, on Facebook, and it was like a line, and it was like, here's where you're at, and here's a big chunk of being cringy, and then there's success at the end. And I'm like, you know what?
That's perfect, though.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's a perfect analogy, especially in 2025, where like most of the content in general is cringe AF.
There's a thing on TikTok right now called Rate My Spoon.
No way.
And it's just a bunch of people showing pictures of their spoons, and they rate their spoons.
Stop it right now.
I'm saying it's the biggest viral trend right now, and I'm like, I cannot. So, but I don't ever want people to think that, like, just because I don't care, I can be a bit goofy, I'm good with that. Okay. Your comments don't pay my bills. I care about my clients deeply.
Correct.
So there is a big difference in that, like me being like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Of course I don't, but my clients.
Yeah, but you have respect to the people you do business with. You have respect for yourself. At the end of the day, everybody's going to have an opinion, one way or the other. There's binary opinions for a reason, good, bad, whatever. It's just no matter what, I can say the sky is blue. I'm like, oh well, that's kind of light blue. Like, okay, who gives a shit? It's blue, man. Like,
don't be a contrarian.
You know what I'm
saying? So annoying.
But that's the world we live in, unfortunately. And I think that the second that you're able to step, especially in business, in my opinion, the second you can step outside of that discomfort is where you kind of start seeing things to kind of blossom.
I think it comes with age too. A lot of age. For sure. Would I have said at 21, like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
So self-conscious, so annoying. You get to like 30, you're creepy. And I've heard it only spirals from there that you really don't give a shit. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. I'm actually it's a very good point, because I feel like now I'll be 36 in August. And I feel like now I'm kind of in this mindset of, man, I'm only getting older. We're like, how much F's can I give about certain things? You know what I mean?
It's like your grandma at the dinner table. She's just spitting facts, and
like, who cares?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Especially, I feel like it's a difficult thing when you move a lot too, and you create businesses. Like the relationships matter, and I have this fantastic referral network around the country, right, of military spouses and military agents and veterans and all this other stuff, which are incredible. So I obviously care about like what they think of me, but in terms of like, I don't know, people's opinions or people you're in the market with, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't pay your bills, and it doesn't help you sleep at night wondering what they think about you. I don't care.
Yeah, no, totally. We got a few minutes left. I do want to ask you, obviously in a year and a half, I'm asking, how do you feel about this? Like, now, you're rolling here, you roll from one state to the next, what's that feeling like for you, getting ready to prepare for next move? Is there a chance that you guys could stay?
There's a chance we could stay. There's a chance I could be here for the next 7 years.
Oh, good. I hope so. I hope you do, because it's been a pleasure meeting you and having you on the show. I think you could come back for some good stuff down the road. But what's that mental preparation like, right? Mentally, your husband, your daughter, right?
Yeah.
Daughter. How old's your daughter, by the way?
She's 5.
She's 5. Yeah. So obviously there's that emotional thing that comes with changing schools, friends, the whole nine, all that. But what like when you're getting ready to gear up for this, is this a now process, or is this something that you will wait until it gets a little bit closer to start kind of mapping out what it looks like for you?
I guess something about the military in general, whether you're Navy, Marines, whatever else, is you're not going to know until till probably like what you would consider last minute. Sure. I won't know probably 4 months prior to getting orders. So it
doesn't make sense to wallow in that idea.
Right. And if I sit here and I'm like, I can't wait to go back to Camp Lejeune, then I'm going to just dig a grave for myself, which is not, we got to be where we're at. We're going to thrive where we're at. We're going to make the most of it. Because, if I go back to North Carolina or if we go back to San Diego, I'll go, man, I miss the bagels there. Or, I wish we could be near New York. It was nice being near an airport all the time. Right. And you tend to romanticize every base where you're at, like, I miss being that. Now, some bases, they suck and they're difficult. And I get that. So this has been, I would say, the most challenging because there's not really any other Marines here. And so that's different coming from a base where there was like 60,000.
Sure. Wow. Oh, God. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, one of the biggest Marine Corps bases in the world.
Wow.
I know. So complete switch up. When I say a total switch up. Yeah. So, we just prepare for it. I made good investments with our house and whatever else. So my goal is always to just remain in the best financial place I can be in, and for our family, whatever else. And then, if we get orders, I kind of just decide what I do with the business here. Do I carry it on? Do I, I don't know.
You don't know.
You just gotta, like I said, you just gotta roll with it.
Roll with it. I said this to Tara on our show. I said that, I'm reading a book, and there's a part of the book where the author says that a plan, like an unsuccessful plan with definiteness is going to succeed greater than a well thought out plan without definiteness. So you have this kind of area of like, I know what I want. I know the core values of me. I know that my work ethic, the passion I have for people, for life, for my family, that's the definiteness.
Right.
And I'll kind of just put the pieces together as it go. But if I don't have that piece, if I don't know the worth and the value, but I have this grand plan of what that plan most likely is not going to succeed. Right. So, I kind of just have to remind myself of that as well. Like, just, know who you are, have those values, be true to all of that, and kind of the rest will follow. But what do you want people to take away? We've been here for almost 40 minutes. I think I love, Tara said, I don't like gate. She said it perfectly. Tara said it perfectly. I don't like gatekeeping information. Do you think what you can do, anybody can do? No. Why?
Because horses for courses. Like my accountant doesn't want to do this because she's real good at numbers and spreadsheets.
Sorry, I guess I phrased the question wrong.
Okay.
Do you think people, when I use the analogy of the realtor, and you said it earlier, 90% of the closings are happening in the 1%. Right. But let's just say somebody's in that like 70%, right? The person who is done maybe 2 or 3 deals, and you're doing 30 deals a year, whatever that number is, just using numbers for example. Do you think they can bridge that gap and go into that's kind of the
do I think anybody can just roll in and do that real quick? No. Do I think that there are things that sort of mid producer can do to become and like flourish? Absolutely. And honestly, I would say like I do some coaching and things like that, and I'll speak to some people and they're like, well, it's this and this and this, and I can pinpoint it within a minute. And as long as you're doing these things and implementing different aspects, I know, for example, one of my clients, she's like, Olivia, I make 100 phone calls a day and I still haven't gotten a deal. I was like, have you tried going outside?
Yeah.
Just hear me out.
Right.
Go outside. Because I wouldn't get a deal if I called 100 people.
No chance. No chance.
And so something that I am like very passionate about telling people, if you don't enjoy cold calling and door knocking, which be uncomfortable. Like, I'm not saying don't sit in your comfort zone, but if you don't enjoy that, it's not going to be successful.
You ever read the book Fanatical Prospecting?
No.
Do you like reading?
I do. I'm currently reading The Mountain Is You.
Oh, I love that book, Brianna West. I have that book. Great book. And it's a very, very, we don't have to go too much into that, but the one big takeaway of that book is just being able to use the anxiety in a positive manner, right? Because it's anxiety is telling you something good is kind of what I unpack from that. Anyway, I don't know how far you're in the book, but anyway, but with fanatical prospecting is, there's this concept of making 100 phone calls for new business insurance clients, right? I have a list of 100 people. Like, I'm maybe going to get a hold of one, but how about I transition that like into realtors, mortgage people, where there's a funnel of people that they can send me instead of trying to call that one person for, hey, can I quote your car and homeowners? Yeah. Maybe call Olivia and say, hey, do you have anybody in the pipeline right now that I could probably help with car and home?
Right. And you've got to think outside the box. You cannot just, so it usually is something small that is stopping. And, there's absolutely something small stopping me from the next step. Right. 100%. Do I know what it is? Maybe. And your business. But stop. Yeah. But yes. Yeah. There's definitely it takes a type of person to be able to be dropped anywhere in the country and do it. Yeah. But it's possible. Right. I've done it. Yeah. And what I'm finding is it can go two ways. There are people here that have lived here their entire lives that do not produce what I'm producing, but they're trying really, really hard to. And they hate me for that. And I'm like, I will tell you. I'm kind of the same as Tara, and I feel like that's something that Key is really good about, is we will kind of all talk to each other and share what we're doing. Right. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible. A good coach is pivotal, not like just a business, somebody that's going to be very direct. Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple minutes, give me I'm going to ask you if you're coaching me, what's one thing you make sure you touch on in the first interaction as a coach?
What the goals are and the why. And not just, I will ask you okay, what's your why? And most likely you'll go, my wife and kids. I go, cool, but why? Right. And then you'll go, oh, because I want to support them. Okay, but why? Yeah, you dive deep. And then we can go seven whys deep, and you're like, oh, because my family and trauma and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, juicy. Let's get to it. Yeah, yes. Yeah. Your why is so important, because I come from a place of, I was having to ask my mom in England to Venmo me diaper money. I will never be in that place again. Yeah. And that's truly and that's not just obviously my only why, but it is that feeling that why, I keep it with me. I keep that with me, and it will never, I have anxiety obviously, but you have to keep that. So that's something I really like finding out about my coaching clients is I want the juicy details, because if you really don't have a solid why, the reason you are doing this, what's going to fire up your ass,
Usually people go to coaching to learn something about themselves, right? And really try to tap into this bigger why, or understanding how to move and navigate through life. As a coach, what do you learn about yourself through your clients?
Usually it's not great things, actually. Not that they but sometimes I'm impatient and I'm not what's the word? I'm not known for my, I'll kind of be like, okay, get on with it. Come on. Yeah. And they're like, no, my husband just left me. I'm like, cool, he sucks, next, So I guess there's that. But because most of my clients are women and moms and military wives, women are they are resilient. Resiliency, and I have seen it in myself, resilient. It is inspiring. They inspire me, honestly, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be a military spouse, and then people are like, thank you for your service. Haha. No, dude, it's a lot. Moving and making friends and having no friends and having kids and dealing with all the emotional crap, and then your husband gets up and leaves. So a lot of my clients, teach me a lot of patience. Sure. and a lot of resiliency that we can all share. And I think just realizing that somebody else is also going through that. And I think I play into that with my clients too. Well, not play into it, but like, I can resonate with that. They're trying to buy a house. They're doing all this stuff. And usually it's the woman that's left to do all the PCS moves and things. I get it. Yeah. And it's every single PCS move I do, I'm like, you guys are tough.
So what I gathered in this 45 minutes of conversation and a few minutes out there is that you're very emotionally intelligent when it comes
I try. I really try.
With your people, not just your clients, but your network, the people you do business with, the community that you're involved with, and your coaching. You're able to disconnect from, that hurry up and maybe there's moments of like you just said, like, all right, move on, let's go. But
I want results, not excuses.
but it almost allows you to take a step back and understand that it kind of isn't that easy, and it's able to transition into your business. So Olivia Evans, right? Evans. I don't know why I thought I was
Heavens or Evan. I get a lot.
Evans. Where could people find you?
Social media, I guess. Facebook, Instagram. I just did a TikTok.
What's your handles? Do you know?
Olivia Evans Real Estate. And then you can just try my name. But I have a website. I, have all the juicy stuff. I have a mailer. We do giveaways. We do funny videos. I feel like I'm everywhere. Like you said, you'll find me. I'll find you.
Awesome. Listen, Olivia, I appreciate it. This was good. I think that the people who listen to this will learn something, a thing or two, for sure.
I hope.
I think so. And that's the hope at the end of the day. And good luck to you, and congratulations to all your success that you've had in your career. And stay ambitious and keep getting after it.
I'm tired.
I'm sure you are. But I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you.